Far beyond the familiar stars, the Zorvans prepared for a conquest that they expected to be swift and decisive. This alien race, known for their cold precision and overwhelming military might, had set their sights on a small human colony nestled in a quiet corner of the galaxy. The colony, a mere speck on the cosmic map, seemed insignificant compared to the vast empires the Zorvans had already conquered. Confident in their superior technology and ruthless efficiency, the Zorvans had little doubt that the humans would fall quickly. Yet before sending their fleet to overwhelm the colony, their commanders chose to gather intelligence carefully. A silent, nearly invisible probe was dispatched to the orbit of the colony's warship, a vessel that was said to guard the human world. The probe drifted unseen, scanning every inch of the warship's hull, its sensors capturing data that was transmitted back to the mothership. As the aliens began to examine the information, a deep sense of confusion took root among them. The warship's design was unlike anything they had encountered before. Its structure combined raw power with delicate engineering, making it both a fortress and a work of art. The hull was thick and strong, clearly built to withstand massive attacks, but at the same time, it featured intricate layers that hinted at complex technology hidden beneath the surface. Strange energy fields flickered across its exterior, subtle and shifting, unlike the predictable shields the Zorvans had on their own ships. More puzzling still was the way the warship seemed to blend heavy weaponry with agility. Where the Zorvans had expected slow, lumbering mass and overwhelming firepower, they found a vessel that moved with surprising speed and grace, able to change course in an instant while launching attacks from multiple angles. The weapons themselves were strange, operating on principles the Zorvan scientists struggled to understand. Instead of large energy blasts that tore through space, these weapons fired rapid bursts of concentrated energy that adapted instantly to the environment and could disable systems rather than destroy them outright. The probe detected a mysterious kind of energy source powering the warship, a core that seemed almost alive, pulsing with light and energy in ways that suggested self-healing and regeneration. The Zorvans, who prided themselves on their technological superiority, found themselves facing something unfamiliar and deeply unsettling. Even their own analysts, trained to find weaknesses, could only speculate on how the humans had managed to create such a ship. Yet despite these discoveries, the Zorvans' confidence was not entirely shaken. They dismissed the human technology as clever but ultimately primitive, the work of a species that relied too much on intuition and emotion, rather than cold logic and raw power. To the Zorvans, this warship was just one piece of a puzzle that they believed they could solve easily. Once the invasion began, the probe continued to circle the warship silently, collecting more information on its movements and communication signals. It caught brief snippets of conversations from the humans aboard the ship, voices filled with determination and calm focus, but the aliens could not comprehend the full meaning behind them. What troubled the Zorvans the most was the strange bond between the human crew and their vessel, a connection that seemed to enhance the ship's capabilities beyond what technology alone could explain. The probe's data hinted at something more than machine and metal, a unity of purpose, a resilience that might turn the tide of any battle. For now, the Zorvans held their plans in careful suspension, unsure if this new knowledge meant an opportunity or a warning. The silent scan had revealed more than just blueprints and weapon systems. It had opened a door to the unknown. In the cold depths of space, the warship continued to orbit its planet, a sentinel guarding a species that was far more than the Zorvans had ever expected to face. As the Zorvans continued their deep analysis of the human warship systems, a new wave of surprises began to unfold, challenging everything they thought they knew about the humans and their technology. What had seemed like mere curiosity at first became serious concern. The weaponry aboard the ship was unlike anything in the Zorvans' vast experience. Rather than relying on brute force or overwhelming energy output, the human weapons operated with a strange adaptive quality. They were powered by an energy source that was not just strong but resilient, able to adjust instantly to counteract incoming attacks. The Zorvan scientists were baffled by how the weapons seemed to learn and improve mid-battle, becoming harder and harder to disable no matter what tactics were used against them. But the surprises did not end there. The ship's hull was perhaps the most astonishing discovery. What looked like solid, unyielding armor was actually alive with tiny machines, nanobots, working constantly beneath the surface. These microscopic repairers moved swiftly, patching damage and reinforcing weakened sections in real time. Even after sustained strikes, the hull could heal itself so quickly that damage from the probe's scans appeared almost temporary. This level of self-repair was far beyond anything the Zorvans had developed and struck fear into their hearts. How could an enemy vessel keep fighting effectively when it could mend itself during battle? To add to their growing unease, the warship's artificial intelligence was no ordinary machine. Instead of responding slowly or following predictable commands, the AI operated like a living strategist. It processed data faster than any Zorvan computer, anticipating enemy moves before they happened and coordinating the ship's weapons and defenses with astonishing precision. The AI's predictive algorithms allowed the warship to dodge attacks and launch counterstrikes almost simultaneously, turning defense into offense in the blink of an eye. This revealed a level of tactical sophistication the Zorvans had never expected from humans, a species they had assumed relied more on brute strength and passion than cold calculation. The more the aliens studied the data, the clearer it became that the humans combined these qualities in a way that made them uniquely dangerous. Their ship was not just a tool of war, but a living extension of the crew's will and adaptability. Communications intercepted by the probe hinted that the human crew and their AI were tightly linked, sharing information and making decisions together as a seamless team. This unity between human minds and machine intelligence was foreign to the Zorvans, who operated with strict hierarchy and rigid control protocols. The probe's findings forced the Zorvans to reconsider their initial assumptions. The humans were not primitive, nor were they easily overwhelmed. Instead, they wielded technology that was clever, flexible, and integrated with a spirit of resilience that refused to give in. Despite the growing unease, some in the Zorvan command insisted that this was still no reason to hesitate. They argued that sheer numbers and overwhelming firepower would still win the day, that human adaptability would crumble under the right pressure. Yet others felt a cold knot of doubt tightening in their minds. How could a race that repaired its warships mid-fight and predicted attacks before they came be so easily defeated? The alien commanders ordered the probe to gather even more detailed data, focusing on the way the warship systems interacted under simulated combat conditions. The probe watched as the AI adjusted weapon output, shifted energy between shields and engines, and communicated seamlessly with the crew. It noted that when one system was threatened, another compensated instantly, creating a flexible and resilient defense network that could absorb damage and keep fighting without missing a beat. The Zorvans' confidence wavered as the depth of human technology and tactics came into focus. Their scan revealed not just a warship, but a symbol of humanity's will. As the Zorvans continued their surveillance, their probe intercepted human communications from the warship, and what they heard began to unravel the assumptions they had long held about this species. Through the static and bursts of code, the aliens caught fragments of a speech delivered by the ship's captain, a voice filled with calm strength and fierce determination. The captain spoke not just to give orders, but to inspire her crew. With words that carried the weight of hope, courage, and unyielding resolve, the Zorvans listened closely as she reminded her people that they were not just soldiers or technicians, but a family bound by a shared purpose, to protect their home, their people, and everything they held dear. Her tone was firm but full of warmth, a rare blend that seemed to awaken something inside those who heard it. The aliens, who had always viewed humans as unpredictable and emotional, now saw something deeper, an unbreakable spirit that no weapon could destroy. The intercepted conversations revealed stories of survival against impossible odds. They learned of humans landing on barren, frozen worlds where nothing should have lived, yet they built thriving colonies through sheer will and unrelenting effort. They heard of explorers lost in hostile environments, forced to innovate with limited resources, crafting new tools and strategies on the fly to stay alive. The humans spoke of setbacks and losses, yet never once did despair take hold. Instead, every challenge was met with a fresh determination to push forward. This resilience struck the Zorvans profoundly. They were used to conquering races who either surrendered or fought only when their defeat was certain. But these humans seemed different. Their tenacity was not born from fear or desperation, but from a deep love for their world and each other. Even more unsettling to the aliens was how this spirit seemed to extend beyond individuals to the very core of their technology and tactics. The crew worked in perfect harmony with their ship, adapting quickly to changes in the battle and finding new ways to turn disadvantages into opportunities. The humans treated their technology not as cold machines but as partners in survival, which made their warship more than just a vessel. It became a symbol of human resilience itself. As the probe gathered more of these transmissions, the Zorvan commanders began to feel a creeping unease. What was this strength they could not measure or control? What kind of force was born not from weapons or numbers, but from a collective will so strong it seemed almost impossible to break? Some among the Zorvans whispered that this spirit was a kind of weapon, far more powerful than any technology they possessed, something that could turn the tide of war, even against overwhelming odds. The aliens tried to analyze this human spirit through their own cold logic, but it slipped through their understanding like water through fingers. They saw bravery and hope, but also something that resembled stubbornness, a refusal to surrender no matter the cost. It was a dangerous quality, one that had fueled countless human victories and made them respected, even feared across the stars. The more the Zorvans listened, the more they realized that invading this colony was not a simple mission. It was a gamble against a force that could not be predicted or easily defeated. The humans were not merely fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for their very identity, their way of life, and that fight gave them strength beyond technology or numbers. The probe continued to capture scenes of the crew preparing for potential battle. The captain's voice, steady as she coordinated defense drills, reminded her people of their purpose and acknowledged the sacrifices they might face. In those moments, the Zorvans glimpsed the heart of humanity, a heart that beat with hope, defiance, and unity. As the silent observer drifted through space, it became clear that this was no ordinary enemy. The humans were more than their weapons or ships. They were a force defined by their spirit, a spirit that could inspire their allies and confound their foes. For the first time, the Zorvans hesitated, realizing that underestimating this human spirit might be their greatest mistake. The invasion plans, once so certain, now carried a shadow of doubt, for they had encountered a power that technology alone could not defeat. In the vast silence of the stars, the humans stood ready, their spirit shining brighter than any weapon, a beacon of hope that even the coldest alien hearts could not ignore. Back on the Zorvan command ship, far from the quiet orbit of the human colony, a heated debate unfolded among the alien leaders, their voices filled with urgency and conflicting conviction. The discovery of the human warship's unexpected strength and the crew's indomitable spirit had shaken the confidence of many, but not all agreed on how to respond. Some commanders, hardened by countless victories and the weight of their vast armadas, insisted that the invasion should proceed without delay. They argued that the sheer number of Zorvan ships and their powerful weapons would crush any resistance the humans could offer. To them, hesitation was a sign of weakness, and any pause might give the humans time to prepare defenses or rally allies. "We have conquered worlds before," one stern voice declared. "This colony is no different. Our forces are superior, our strategy proven. We must act before doubt spreads among our ranks." Yet not all shared this blind certainty. Others, more cautious and experienced, warned that underestimating the humans could lead to devastating losses. They pointed to the probe's data, highlighting the warship's self-repairing hull, the advanced AI that predicted attacks, and above all, the humans' relentless will to survive. This was not a foe to dismiss lightly. One advisor, her tone, calm but firm, reminded the council that every battle required respect for the enemy's strengths, not just confidence in one's own power. "If we rush in unprepared," she warned, "we risk our fleet being shattered by a force we do not fully understand." The humans fight not just with weapons, but with a spirit that drives them beyond what technology alone can achieve. The room filled with tension as the leaders considered the consequences of both action and delay. Then, breaking through the debate, a bold voice proposed a different path. A scout commander suggested sending a small, stealthy team to meet the humans directly, to learn more about them face to face, rather than relying solely on intercepted signals and remote scans. The scout argued that understanding humanity's true nature was crucial before committing their entire fleet to battle. Only by seeing them ourselves, the scout said, can we grasp the full measure of their strength, their resolve, and perhaps even find a way to avoid needless bloodshed. The idea was daring, unusual for a race that favored overwhelming force over diplomacy, but it sparked curiosity and cautious approval among some council members. The scouts' plan promised not just knowledge, but the chance to build an unexpected bridge between two very different species. Still, others worried it was a dangerous gamble. What if the humans saw this approach as a weakness and attacked the scout team? What if the encounter sparked a war that might have been avoided? Despite these fears, the debate shifted toward the possibility that the humans' unique spirit, combined with their unpredictable tactics, made a direct approach necessary. The Zorvan leaders weighed their options carefully, understanding that the next decision could change the fate of their entire species. As the hours passed, the council reached a fragile consensus. A small reconnaissance mission would be sent to the human warship, aiming to gather first-hand knowledge and test whether communication or conflict was the better path forward. The scout commander, chosen for their skill and courage, prepared their ship for the journey, aware of the risks but driven by a desire to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, the rest of the fleet waited in quiet readiness, engines humming softly, poised, on the edge of war. Back on the human side, unknown to the Zorvans, the crew of the warship continued their own preparations, watching the stars with a mixture of vigilance and hope, unaware that their resilience and spirit had already begun to reshape the very minds of their would-be conquerors. In the silent expanse of space, two worlds stood on the brink, one armed with overwhelming force, the other armed with unbreakable spirit, and between them, a single daring act might decide whether the future held destruction or unexpected understanding. When the Zorvan scout ship finally approached the human warship, the tension was palpable on both sides. The vast emptiness of space between them seemed charged with unspoken questions and cautious hope. Inside the human vessel, the captain and her officers prepared to meet the alien visitors, aware that this encounter could change everything. As the two ships locked into communication, the scout's crew hesitated for only a moment before opening a direct channel. What followed was a careful, measured exchange. First words filled with caution, then curiosity, and slowly a bridge began to form between two very different species. The Zorvan scout, trained for combat and conquest, found themselves facing humans who spoke not of domination, but of survival and respect. The captain explained that humanity's goal was not to conquer or destroy, but to protect their homes and to seek peaceful coexistence where possible. She shared stories of how humans had survived countless hardships by working together, learning from each other, and finding strength in unity rather than in conflict alone. The scout, listening closely, began to understand that this was a race whose power came not only from advanced technology, but from an indomitable spirit that valued life and cooperation. The human officers spoke openly about their defenses, not as tools for aggression, but as shields to keep peace and protect the innocent. They emphasized the importance of mutual respect and the hope for alliances that could benefit all species in the galaxy. This was a perspective unfamiliar to the Zorvans, who had always measured strength by the size of their fleets and the power of their weapons. The scout realized that the humans' approach required a different kind of courage, the courage to reach out instead of strike first, to listen instead of destroy. Slowly, mutual respect began to replace suspicion. The scout reported back to the Zorvan leaders about the encounter, describing how the humans' determination and honesty left a lasting impression. The commanders, once eager to launch a full-scale invasion, found themselves reconsidering their plans. The data from the scout suggested that any war with humans would be costly and unpredictable. More than that, the humans' willingness to Seek Peace showed a potential for cooperation that could strengthen both species. The Zorvans began to see that the galaxy was not a place solely for conquest, but a place where different civilizations could grow together, sharing knowledge and resources instead of fighting endlessly. This new understanding sparked debates among the Zorvan leaders, many of whom had never before questioned their own assumptions. Could they join hands with a species so different from themselves? Could they learn from humans rather than destroy them? These questions challenged the very foundation of their culture and their long history of war. Yet the evidence was clear. Humanity's strength lay in more than weapons and armor. It was in their spirit, their ability to endure, innovate, and hope. With careful deliberation, the Zorvans decided to postpone the invasion indefinitely. Instead, they would explore diplomatic channels and seek ways to build alliances with the humans and other species. This was a monumental shift, marking a new chapter in Zorvan history. As the scout ship returned to its fleet, the message was clear. The galaxy was changing, and so too must its inhabitants. Humanity's blend of technology and spirit had forced even the most warlike among the Zorvans to rethink their place in the universe. Far from being a mere enemy, the humans had become a symbol of resilience and hope, a reminder that strength could be measured not just in weapons, but in the courage to choose peace. And so, in the vast darkness of space where countless stars shone quietly, two very different civilizations stood at a crossroads. The humans, guardians of their fragile world, and the Zorvans, warriors turned diplomats, faced a future full of unknown possibilities. The silent war had ended not with a clash of firepower, but with a meeting of minds and hearts, opening the door to a new era where respect and cooperation might finally prevail.